Welcome to the Fantasy NASCAR podcast brought to you by RaceForThePrize.com. Let's talk about Xfinity optimal lineups at Nashville. They are unique. It is a small sample size of just 3 races, but I find the lineups to be interesting. I hope that you do the same, or at least I try to make it entertaining. But first, remember RaceForThePrize.com. That's where you can get access to the Fantasy NASCAR Spreadsheet, all the practice data that you want and love. Venmo, PayPal, Cash App is in the description below. Send some money my way, and I'll send the sheet your way. So here it is. This isn't very scientific, I apologize, but it is interesting and worth considering. Typically what we see in a Nashville intermediate track lineup is one hog or dominator. And I think you could call him a dominator in this race. And the rest of it's place differential. I know what you're saying, small sample size, be careful with that. Why not look at all races? Why not look at all intermediate track races? Sure, fine, I get it. Typically, we do see 2 to 3 or 1 to 2 at least in most races. But on the micro level, when we zoom in on Nashville, over these 3 seasons, it's been 1 and place differential. That's the trend. Again, I understand, small sample size, but let's discuss. Let's contextualize, and let's hypothesize why this could be the case. Nashville is a one-groove lap turning track. I know this, you know this. I've discussed it all week. Cup Series podcast, Truck Series podcast, every single week. Even when we talk about Texas and Dover and we're comparing it to Nashville, same story. One groove race track. That one groove, an old school honky tonk. Not the eclectic mix of bro country and Taylor Swift and you name whatever goes on in that city. No, I'm not going to do the thing that you think I'm going to do that's been trending on the internet all week. I am not going to repeat that phrase. You will likely hear that phrase more this week. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I am envious and jealous of you. I'm disgusted by our nation. So there's no passing, there's no movement. NASCAR didn't return to Nashville for the track. NASCAR left because of the track years ago. And then in the meantime, Nashville became one of the hottest cities in the U.S., so NASCAR came running back. Why do they run in COTA? They want to be in Austin. They got to be in the hottest cities in America. So they're in Nashville because they want to be in Nashville, and they're just stuck at a bum track. So what? There they are. So back to contextualizing and hypothesizing on that theory of a one-groove track. If you can't pass, I know and you know, how else can you make moves? You got to do it on the restarts or on pit road. And often in the Xfinity series, especially, that means gambling. So tire games. And then that leads to weird things that happen on green flag runs. It could affect anyone from the best to the worst, positively or negatively. But also doing those weird games on pit road, it makes restarts hairier, and they're already pretty hairy to begin with. So because of the boring track, you have set up a situation where really 2 things can happen. And 2 things will happen. You get long green flag lap turn and runs. And then you also get restart madness. So what typically happens in a Nashville race, again, small sample size, but it seems to make sense contextually. If you can survive the restart madness, then we begin the long green run until the next stage break or the next caution, and then it's restart madness, and it could be 1, 2, 3 restarts. And if we can get going, then it's long green flag run. Hold your spot. We're just going to wind down the laps. So we get a little bit of both. And with that analysis, we create a lineup that in our 3 races has been one hog and then a lot of place differential picks. I know what you're saying, why not 2 hogs? Someone different could emerge from the restart madness. That's a great question. And I don't have a great answer for you. Well, I mean, it's a small sample size, but what we have seen is hogs wreck. And again, that makes sense because we got restart madness. Or they play the strategy wrong. And strategy comes into play when you have races with long green flag runs and restart madness. So you factor all those things in, and what we have seen in 3 races is a one hog or dominator build along with a bunch of place differential. And I know you're probably still saying, yeah, but here's another thing to think about. When you have restart madness, it allows drivers to really work their way through the field and finish a lot better than where they started, or finish a lot better than where they should. And we get drivers that are just simply better point per dollar plays than your expensive hog that, hey, maybe did lead one of those long green flag runs. Because I don't think we're going to get a bunch of green flag runs and a bunch of leaders. And the expensive drivers are typically going to be the guys that lead a bunch of laps. And so when you create restart madness, someone scores 20 place differential points at a lower price tag, and we get a couple of them, they end up leapfrogging the hogs slash dominators. And so that is one theory why we get the one hog and multiple place differential. So we look at 2023. Again, it's all weird stuff that happens. AJ ends up being your one dominator, one hog. He leads in stage 3. He overcomes a wreck early in the race. There are 21 cars involved in incidents in the 2023 Nashville race. Say it with me, restart madness. Is it an anomaly? No, it's hard to pass. It gives us restart madness, and it should continue. But and they're saying, and you can see on the screen here, hey, there were actually 2 hogs. Hey, there were actually 3 hogs. Or dominators. So you wouldn't really call them dominators in this race when it's just you survived a restart and you got to turn to lead. But why did they not end up in the optimal lineup? Say it with me. Restart madness. Chandler Smith wrecks in overtime. Boom. Okay. Cole Custer. When we get one of those cautions at the very end of the race, teams have a choice. You want to come down pit road? Oh, that's right. We're out of tires. Hey, why are we out of tires? Anyone? Restart madness. That's right. They burned through all of their tires. So Cole Custer's team says, all right, we'll slap on some old tires and see how this works. It didn't work. And he ends up finishing 9th and losing 8 place differential points, completely washing away most of his hog points. And at his price, it ain't going to work. Not to mention, did he lose 8 place differential? He also lost 8 finishing position spots, or actually 7. He would have finished 2nd probably. Who knows how the restarts would have played out. And that's a sample size of 1, so we don't want to overreact. But there it is, a one hog lineup. Worth noting, you got Brennan Poole in this. You probably don't remember. The reason why he works, doesn't really do much in the race, but he does benefit from restart madness. He was 4,700 because the prior races he had been racing in quotations for Mike Harmon, and he was starting in parking. Well, not really starting in parking, just not finishing. This week he was with JD, and so he was the steal of the Cindric. How about 2022? Again, we get one guy. Leads the big green flag run at the end of the race. No one else. Because most of the other parts were restart madness. Now, you did actually have AJ Allmendinger at one point. And you say, all right, your theory is all busted, folks. And I know it's a flimsy theory. But look, he lost 14 place differential points. He finished 16th. What happened? Well, what happened was, again, restart madness and long green flag runs makes strategy an issue. You can either nail it or you can miss it. You also can get penalties on pit road. AJ Allmendinger gets a penalty on pit road early in the race, has to kind of reverse engineer how he's going to go about his finish. And in stage 3, they run out of fuel and have to pit with plenty of laps left. Whereas the leaders who had a different strategy were able to run it to the end. And in doing so, he drops back. I know. It's a guy. But that's what's happening at this race because of the variables that I've talked about. Is it going to continue? I would say it probably will. Are the restarts going to continue to be crazy? Yes. Will we continue to get long green flag runs after the restarts? Yes, we will. And you throw all that in, it just increases the probability that one of these expensive drivers can wreck on a restart, can play the strategy wrong, gamble wrong. And you say, well, why do they keep doing it? Because you kind of have to keep doing it because you can't pass. And you can win the race without having the best car by just playing the game correctly. In 2022, AJ played his card draw. Now, it's because of his penalty, They really set that up. But again, if there are restarts, there's a lot more time on pit road, a lot more cars on pit road, a lot more problems on pit road. All those variables just increase the probability of this one hog multiple place differential situation. So AJ unlucky in 2022, but then gets his luck in 2023 and gets the win. 2021, one guy steals the show. No surprise. Kyle Busch. This is again another race with plenty of restart madness opportunities. And then when we do get long green flag runs, the guy at the front emerged on most of those restarts and took all the hog points with him. And the other guys, look, oh, but Allgaier still finished second. Still grabbed 13. That ain't 18 place differential. That's not Riley Herbst at a significantly cheaper price. Jeremy Clements at a significantly lower price. You also had to pay up for Kyle Busch in that situation. So it's not etched in stone. It's not permanent, but that's your theory. We go back and look at these lineups real quick before I talk about the races in general. Parker running for Sieg. Worth noting that Sieg had 2 cars in the optimal lineup. Sieg cars have been pretty fast at Nashville in our small sample. Earnhardt was running for Sam Hunt, so not really a slugmobile. Pretty solid day. 2023, don't really need to explain those drivers. And I already talked about Brennan Poole. And then 2021, don't really need to explain, don't need to explain. Clements just has a good day. LeVay, restart madness boost. Him, Ryan Vargas running for JD, starting in the back at an absolute punt price. And surprisingly, Vargas in his 2 races with JD Motorsports, pretty solid. You see him right here again. Decent days. And finding a way to start in the back. You didn't need him in 2022, but 2021 with the Kyle Busch situation, yeah, he was there. So again, to recap these races and what we are seeing, 2023, tons of restarts, tons of wrecks. As I mentioned, 21 cars involved in incidences. You did get a long green run in stage 3, followed by restart madness and guys running out of tires. 2022, you survive the restarts, and then we run green in stage 1, stage 2. Stage 3 begins with restart madness, then runs green completely to the end. That sets up the situation where AJ stays out and then runs out of fuel. You go to 2021, you get a green stage 1, and stage 3 is green for 45 laps. Then it closes with restart madness, 5 cautions to close, basically just wiping people out, resorting the order. Again, this is all not as scientific as you would like. I understand that. But we have generally seen a one hog dominator lineup and a lot of place differential plays. Not saying there can't be a second guy. And even Justin Allgaier got you 9 place differential points, and he ended up in the optimal lineup. He did. But we would look at this race saying there was one guy that absolutely crushed it. And you can also argue that Allgaier is more of a place differential play. Almost. Again, I'm not telling you that if you are targeting 2 drivers to lead a bunch of laps, it's the wrong plan. I would make a strong case that if you're rostering 2 drivers starting inside the top 5, that might not be the best route. You can get a second hog or a second dominator, but you're likely going to need a little bit of place differential as well, assuming that driver is going to be expensive. And also assuming that the opportunity is going to be there for another driver in that tier to get place differential. Thanks for joining me. Hopefully this was helpful. I don't mean for it to be misleading. I don't mean for it to be non-scientific. I find it interesting, something for you to ponder as you're building your Nashville Xfinity lineups this Saturday. Something you can also ponder is getting access to the Fantasy NASCAR Spreadsheet, Venmo, PayPal, Cash App. The links are in the description below. You click on them, you send $30. I give you all the July sheets. Simple, easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Appreciate you guys coming around. I appreciate the likes, sharing. blessed to have you guys around, which makes it really terrible that I'm about to close this podcast this way. To have your support and your blessing and to feel the love. I really shouldn't do this, but it is Nashville, and you're going to hear it all weekend in Nashville, because apparently that's where this thing started and spread across the nation. But I can imagine if you're on them streets, you're hearing, Hawk Tua!